Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you with a Friday Reads. I hadn't done a Friday Reads in, well, it's been about a month and a half since I've done a Friday Reads. I know I did an end of July wrap up, so kind of like a Friday Reads. But anyway, I hadn't done one for a while, and so I thought I'd give you an update on where my reading is, and then also just what's going on in life in general. As all of you know, the summer is slowly winding down, and we are getting to that point where, for me anyway, as a teacher, I got to go back to the classroom. This last week, I got the dreaded letter. All of us teachers always call it the dreaded letter, and it's the welcome back letter that says you better get back in the mental state for school to begin, and it always gives us our list of things we're going to do, the opening days of school and all of that kind of stuff. And so, school's going to start back up for the teachers in my school district on August 18th, and we'll have a teacher training days and that kind of stuff on the 18th, 19th, and the 22nd. And then we'll have an open house for all of the parents and students on the night of the 22nd. And then we open up school with the kids on August 23rd in full speed ahead. And of course, with that comes our sports seasons. The football season for me, for middle school, starts that first day of school. We'll have a camp the previous week on the 18th and 19th. But, anyway, long story short, everything is about ready to, life's about ready to make one of those sudden changes again with school starting. And so, that was one of the things going on in my life. I got a message also from a friend, Richard Wallace. He was one of my best friends in high school, and he is having a retirement party here in about 2 weeks. I'm not sure how to take that. It almost makes me feel old to know that my friends are retiring, but he's been in the Army for over 20 years, and so he can retire from that and move on to his next stage in life. And so I'm going to get to go to Kansas and go to the military base for a retirement ceremony for him, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I really look forward to that. So congratulations, Richard, on a full career in the Army. That's always my hat's off to all of our veterans, and that's where he's at, is he's about ready to become a veteran. So anyway, my daughter, other things going on in life. My daughter finished up swimming lessons this week, and that was fun watching her. She was so excited to dunk her head under the pool by herself and get all of her hair wet, not just her mouth and face, but all of her head. And she was dunking, and which is a long ways away from where she was last year, and even the first day of lessons. But very proud of her, and so she got through her second year of swimming lessons, and hopefully we'll have a independent swimmer before you know it in the next couple years. And so our next stage for this summer, with the little bit that's left, we're going to work on riding a bike without training wheels. She doesn't know that yet, but that's coming soon. And so we're going to work really hard on trying to maybe not master that, but at least get a good handle on that so that she's not having to ride with training wheels. Give her a little bit more independence. We thought that'd be a good thing. We've also been going out to the garden each evening and watering the garden, and been able to pick a lot of tomatoes and cucumbers, and got our first pepper off of our pepper plants. And so I don't know how your guys' gardens are doing. Ours has been thriving this year. We've got this problem in our backyard where when we first moved in here, we planted this oak tree in the backyard. And at the beginning, we were able to have a garden that stretched all along the back fence. But that tree has gotten so big in the last 15 years or so, it has gotten so big and cast such a huge shadow that we've had to cut our garden down to about a third of the size of what it once was. So we're kind of limited in our space on where we can put our garden and still have playroom for Katie to be running around. But anyway, the garden has been producing. Brought in a big old bowl full of cherry tomatoes last night and a couple cucumbers. And like I said earlier in the week, we picked our first pepper out of the garden. The big tomatoes aren't quite there. They're all, there's a whole bunch of them. They just haven't started turning. And they've probably got, I imagine, 2-3 weeks left before they'll really start turning. But they'll be coming soon. And so the garden's been doing really well. Like I said, swimming lessons, getting ready to go to a retirement party. Life is good here at the Ruttenberg house. The other big one the other big piece of news that changed yesterday for me is many of you probably don't realize, because I don't wear them on an everyday basis, but these are my old glasses. I have reading glasses, and I usually wear these throughout the morning as I do all of my reading. Well, I have been finding, and many of you may have had the same issues, I've been finding that between 9 and 10 o'clock every morning, I have a horrible, horrible headache right behind my left eye. And we at first thought that it was from my my sinus infection that I had, because I'd had a sinus infection for 2.5 months before I finally went to the doctor and got medicine and stuff. And the reason I went and got medicine is I was getting this headache. I've had this headache for the last month of, around 9 to 10 o'clock, it just starts pounding. And so after we started to wipe out the sinus infection and the headache was still there, my wife's like, I've been thinking about it. You might need new glasses. And we went the cheap route. Instead of going and getting a doctor's appointment and spending over $100 on getting all that kind of stuff done, we went the cheap route, went to the Dollar Tree and just found some readers. Now, I have never been one to do you got a little, I don't know if that's a tiger frame or a wooden frame, whatever it is. It's a cheap pair of glasses because I usually just wear them during the morning. But got those, and oh my gosh, I did not realize in the last several mornings, the print has been what it is. You don't really realize how bad your eyes have gotten until you get a decent pair of glasses. And I got these, and it's like the words were like this big. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder my eyes have been acting up on me and been getting headaches. And by the way, wore these all morning, no headache, nothing has formed yet. So, and usually by this point I can feel it coming on, and so yes, knocked out that problem. But anyway, so that's what's been going on with me of late. And so on to the next section of Friday Reads, the reason you're here. What have I been reading? What have I finished? What have I been reading? And what are my plans for the very near future, the next week or two? Okay, so what have I gotten finished in the last, and I went back actually 2 weeks since I hadn't done this for a while. And so the first book that I finished back on, this is from July 15th. I've been reading, as many of you know, I've been trying out some new science fiction because I'm a historical fiction reader. And so going outside of my comfort zone is something I'm not comfortable with. But so I've been trying to, and last year I read The Time Machine, really loved it. And I had found H.G.Wells's The Island of Dr Moreau. And so I read that and finished it on July 15th. I enjoyed it. The first half of the book was rough for me. I was not really enjoying it. I thought it was kind of boring. But then the last 1/3 of the book really picks up pace, and the book got pretty exciting. I was very captivated by the book after the when you got to the last 1/3. But anyway, I hope to do a book review on this, or a book chat on this, and just tell you a little bit about it if you're not familiar with it. And so I'm going to kind of save that for a future book video. So the next one that I finished, and I finished this July 20th, was Summer of '49, the classic chronicle of baseball's most magnificent season as seen through the Yankees and Red Sox rivalry by David Halberstam. And as many of you know, I'm a baseball fan. I used to coach, I umpire, and I usually throughout the summer read baseball books. And this is the only one I've read this summer. Well, I think it's the only one I've read this summer. Maybe I've read a couple of them, but yeah, maybe I've read 2 of them. But anyway, this is the only one I've read in July. And thoroughly enjoyed it. You talk about a good storyteller. David Halberstam brings the season of 1949 to life for the Yankees and the Red Sox, and what a magnificent rivalry this was. And I was very aware of the rivalry, but he brought in some details of the lives of the different players from each team that I was not aware of, and that's what I really love about this time period and reading about this golden era, this golden age of baseball. I love learning those background stories and how it affected the play on the field, and I just really get into this. And so if you have never read Summer of 49, you need to go check it out. And this was sent to me by one of my subscribers, a fellow booktuber, Todd's BookTube channel, I think is what his channel name is. But Todd, Todd, 2 Ds, he sent me this in the mail and said, hey, I think you'll like this. I want you to try it out. And I did try it out. Todd, thank you very much for sending that to me. That was an awesome book. And I know it's going to lead into another baseball book that he wrote. And I was trying to find it on my shelf. I must have taken it upstairs, but I got to dig it out. And it's another one that talks about the Yankees. And so anyway, got that one read. Another book that I got read, this one I finished on July 21st. So keep in mind, some of these are overlapping as far as when I'm reading them. I don't read one book and then move to the next, then move to the next. I usually have 4 or 5, sometimes way more than that, books all going at the same time. So anyway, the next one was a book that was sent to me by Steve Donahue, and it is Vineyard Blues by Philip R. Craig, and it's part of the Martha's Vineyard mystery series. And these are like cozy mysteries. Thoroughly enjoy these. I got to find the rest of them. I've now got, because of Steve sending me, he sent me a whole box of these, and I did a book haul or mail haul video on this, but he sent me a whole box of these in the mail, and now I'm kind of dead set on collecting the whole set. And then once I've read them all, I'm going to read them again all in order. And these are standalone novels, but it's a series that you can read in order, but you don't necessarily have to read it in order. And I've been reading them out of order. So like I said, I want to read them in order, but this is about J.W. Jackson is our main character. He's our guy that's through the whole series, him and his wife Z. They live on Martha's Vineyard. He's a retired cop from the Boston Police Department, also a former Vietnam vet. He was injured early in like his first week in Vietnam and got sent home. He after recovering, he later became a cop, got shot in the line of duty, has a bullet lodged in his back, so he's like on permanent disability. And so as a child, he had lived on Martha's Vineyard with his dad, an ex-fireman, and when he retired from the Boston Police Department, he moved to the island of Martha's Vineyard. And so this whole series deals with his life as a retired police officer on Martha's Vineyard. And lo and behold, all of the murders that happen on Martha's Vineyard somehow end up with him in the background as a investigator of some sort, investigating for someone else that's involved in the crime, typically. And in this case, he has an old childhood friend, and I say childhood friend, it was a friend of his father's, who comes back to Martha's Vineyard, and he plays the blues, and he's coming back to Martha's Vineyard touring, and he's going to play in one of the bars for a couple of nights, and he's staying in this old college. You know how you got slumlords that rent to college kids? You know what I'm saying? And they've got lots and lots of buildings that they rent to these college kids who really can't afford anything else. That's what the main character, what is his name? Hang on a minute, I went blank on his name. Corey Appleyard. He's staying in one of those places, in one of those old college dives, and on Martha's Vineyard, there's been the guy that owns all of these old slum houses. He's had a couple, 3 of them all burned down, 2 of them in this last week. And lo and behold, in the second burning, Corey Appleyard, who we get to know in the first half of the book, is caught in the house and he burns to death. And so the mystery becomes, What Happened to Corey Appleyard. And so, and then also the guy who owns all the slum houses has hired JW to figure out who's burning down my houses. And so that's, kind of the intertwining story throughout the whole book. And it's very, very interesting story. I thoroughly enjoy it. And there's also another storyline going of something that JW has been asked to investigate. And there's a girl who is married, has moved to Martha's Vineyard, and her and her husband have started a new life. Well, in her old life, she was a movie star of adult movies, and somebody has figured out. Now she's changed from her earlier life, and she has started new, but somebody has figured out about her earlier life, a super fan, and she's being stalked. And JW has been asked to help solve that crime as well. And so we'll see how those two kind of intertwine together, those two mysteries. So anyway, great book. Finished that one on July 21st. And then I also finished a book that I had on audio. I was listening to it while I was walking at I do my exercise walks out at the cemetery, and then also while I'm doing the dishes here at home, I listen to audiobooks, and I listened to The Swamp Fox, How Francis Marion Saved the American Revolution by John Oller. And that was an okay book. It was basically about the life of Francis Marion, and obviously centering around his role in the American Revolution and how he did a lot of guerrilla warfare tactics down in South Carolina and in the Carolinas in general. And it just really centered on his role in saving the day for the American armies, and how important a general he was, or how important did he make general? I'm trying to remember if he made general. Maybe he was a colonel. But anyway, just how his important role in the American Revolution. It was an interesting book. I wouldn't say necessarily my favorite book, but then again, I was listening to it on audio, and sometimes when I listen to books on audio, nonfiction doesn't go over as well as fiction does. So anyway, I finished that July 28th. And so now that kind of brings us up to the present, and I can tell you what I am reading right now. And I'll kind of speed this up a little bit. Went to Books Revisited last year, and lo and behold, when I was there at the bookstore, I was looking and trying to find some books, and on the front table, or not the front table, the desk where you buy the books, there was a pile of P.G. Wodehouse books. There was probably 5, 6, 7 of them, and the old Jeeves books, and I had never read these before, but I had watched Todd at the Bursting Bookcase, his channel, and I had seen some book hauls that he had done, and I'd seen some times when he was just talking about books that he likes, and he had really talked a lot about Wodehouse and the Jeeves books, and saying they were funny, they were great. And so last year when I was at Books Revisited, I saw this, and I bought the first one that was on the pile, or the one that was on the top of the pile. And I said to myself, I got to give these a try. Todd says they're awesome. I need to at least try them, expand my reading. And so I finally got to that this week. And so I picked this up, and I will admit the first couple chapters were a little slow paced, a little dry, and I really wasn't into it yet. But then the last couple days that I have read this, this is an absolutely hilarious book. The relationship between Jeeves and oh goodness, what's his name? Hang on a second. Bertie Wooster, who is Jeeves is like the what do you call it? The servant guy who goes around the house, answers the door, fixes the food and all that kind of stuff. And Wooster's the rich guy. And anyway, their relationship back and forth is absolutely hilarious, and it reads like a sitcom. Once I finally got into it, oh my gosh, I couldn't put it down. I was kind of, we went to Books Revisited yesterday, and I asked the guy that kind of runs the shop, I said, hey, do you happen to have those other books still? He goes, nope, they sold pretty much right after you bought the first one. I had a guy, and I could tell you exactly who bought them, and he said he bought the whole stack of them, a lawyer that is from in town, and I was kind of disappointed at that. I should have just bought the whole stack when I had the chance, but that was my bad. But anyway, this is a 224-page book. I'm on starting chapter 10, 88 pages in, so I'm almost halfway through it. As you can see, I'm almost halfway through. Absolutely hilarious book. The stuff that happens to Bertie Wooster, he has got the worst luck, and it just it gets me chuckling, and I keep chuckling. The next book that I'm reading is the last book of the Martha's Vineyard mysteries that are in my stack of books. It's not the last in the series, but the last one that I haven't read. And this is Off Season, again, by Philip R. Craig. And this is a good book so far. What am I, halfway? I'm over halfway in this one, 132 pages in, and it's 240 pages long, so I'm over halfway in this one. And this one is really centering in on what it's like on Martha's Vineyard once the tourists leave, centering in on the off-season. And when the population drastically shrinks. And then during the cold season, when those little subtle problems that go into the background when the tourists are there, they kind of blow up into big problems when everybody's gone. And so the big one here is really dealing with the environmentalists or the animal rights activists versus the hunters. And that's pretty much what this story's about. We've had some big time arguments. There's a chunk of land that's for sale, and who should be able to buy it, and what should be the restrictions on the land, and that kind of stuff as far as hunting rights. And lo and behold, somebody's been murdered, and it's right in the middle of this big argument between the animal rights activists and the hunters. And so as usual, it's a really good one. But this is one of the early, I think it's either book 3 or 4 in the series. I'd have to look to make sure, but J.W. Jackson has not married Z yet. They are engaged, and they've had some arguments back and forth. And so anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens in that book. That's a good one. And then the grand poupée that has taken up most of my time in the last 2 to 3 weeks is Ron Chernow's Grant. And I am buddy reading this with my subscriber friend Brian. And we have been going through this, and then this last 2 weeks we kind of kicked it into overdrive because I have another buddy read that I'm supposed to be starting on around Monday. And so I was gonna try to get this finished. I don't think I'm gonna have it quite done. I'll be close. I'll be a couple days away from having it done, but my plan was to read at least 2 chapters every morning, which I have almost stuck to. I've done really well there, but then this week I got to calculating the chapters, and I thought, if I can get 3 chapters done every morning, I will finish this on Sunday morning. Well, those mornings when you wake up and you get up and you have intentions to read, or whenever your reading time is. Mine's in the morning, but you sit down to read and it just isn't happening, and you maybe get a headache or something. I've had 2 of those in the last, like one each week, where I just didn't read anything. So it kind of put me behind a little bit. And then this headaches I was getting slowed me down. And so anyway, I will be starting chapter 32. So I'm 689 pages into it's over 1,074 pages. Now, with that being said, only 959 of it is text. So I am, 250 pages or so away from, 260 pages away from being done. So I will finish this in the next week, but it won't be for my August 1st buddy read. I'll have to maybe slow down a little bit on it. So I will finish this next week. Very good book. Right now I am in the last couple chapters, he's in his presidency. So Civil War's all done. He's into his presidency, into the first term. His buddy John Rawlins, who's really been sticking to him throughout his life has died of tuberculosis, and Grant has gotten himself into some troubles with some scandals that have been breaking out. It's only talked really about the gold scandal where they tried to center the gold market. That was in one of the chapters. But we're finding that Grant is a very innocent man. He is not necessarily involved in the scandals, but he has laid trust in people who are taking advantage of their situation, and they have gotten themselves in trouble. So Ron Chernow, I cannot talk enough about him and his writing. You could definitely tell he's a Grant fan. He polishes Grant up quite a bit. I don't mind. I think he's doing a really good job. One of the things that I've seen throughout the entire book, a central theme, it really hits on his alcoholism, and I found that Chernow brings it up almost every chapter, if not every chapter, almost every chapter, and what is his alcoholism done at that point in his life. And that's a main theme. And then also his there's a theme running through here where he has always had this this greatness about him, but he didn't always have the opportunity to show that greatness. And so it really came alive during the Civil War, and then to an extent extended into his presidency. And that's what he's proving through the civil rights amendments and laws that were passed under Grant, and how he protected the former slaves, the African Americans coming out of slavery, how he protected them in the South, or attempted to protect them, tried to help them with their rights. But it's showing, he's doing a good job of showing the greatness of Grant, where Grant historically has not always ranked real high in presidential. If you look at your greatest presidents, he's usually towards the bottom, but it's more because of those scandals. And what Ron Chernow is doing in this book, what I find him doing is really showing the reader that he doesn't belong in the bottom half. He's not necessarily one of the best presidents, but he belongs higher on the list than what he has traditionally been. So that's what I'm reading right now, and I should finish all three of those books within the coming days. Probably, I'm going to guess, in the next 4 to 5 days, I'll have all of those finished. So what is on the docket when those are finished for the week following? So this is what I've got planned for the week following. So I've got to talk to my buddy Reed, partner Peg over at the History Shelf. We are starting tentatively on August 1st. We are going to start Catastrophe 1914, Europe Goes to War by Max Hastings. Super excited about this. I got this last year when I went to the World War I Museum in Kansas City with my kids, my 7th graders. I went into the bookshop and found this book, bought this book. Super pumped about it. It is, it's not quite as thick as the Grant book. It's a total of 628 pages. Okay, so it is a decent sized book. I have never myself read Max Hastings, so this will be a new experience for me. Everyone that I've heard talk about him loves his books, so I'm not worried about if I'm going to like it. I think I'm going to like it, but I just have never experienced him before. So 563 pages long of text. So it is, like I said, a good size book. It has, pictures in the middle that go with the story. Got a pretty sweet end pages. Look at those. Isn't that beautiful? And then, so that was before World War I. There's your after 1914. So right before the war and then right after the war. So all in 1 year, what are the changes to Europe? The end pages of this book tell the whole story. So anyway, I got a Voxer Peg and get our reading schedule put together. Just, how much are we going to cover each week? But other than that, we are going to be ready to rock and roll on this. So I'm looking forward to that and, telling you what I think about that. And I know in the end, Peg and I are going to do we have planned anyway, to do a Zoom session to discuss this book. And so looking forward to that when I get done. So Peg over at the History Shelf, she has a lot of stuff that she reads. She reads way more books than I do. And then she's got reviews that go out and stuff. So I know when we read this book, I am guessing we'll cover a couple chapters a week. It won't be like a chapter a day or 2 chapters a day or anything like that. It won't be like super fast. And so let's say we got 2 chapters to cover in a week. Well, I read that Monday, Tuesday. What am I reading on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? So when I'm finished with my weekly reading session of that, and I've got Grant finished, I am going to be reading Wrestling with His Angels, The Political Life of Abraham Lincoln, 1849 to 1856. So the antebellum period in Lincoln's life by Sidney Blumenthal. Now, I have started this. I read another chapter out of it earlier. Well, it was yesterday. I read another chapter out of this yesterday. Enjoying this. However, it is not a typical Lincoln biography. I'm finding that this volume 2 is more about what's going on in the period around Lincoln. It's not necessarily Lincoln himself. And so that has been a little disappointing. It's more of a history of the antebellum period, which is okay, except for when I bought it, I was, expecting some Abraham Lincoln. But, and he's actually spoke very little of Abraham Lincoln. But as far as a history of the antebellum period, enjoying it. But anyway, I'm about a quarter of the way through this. I'm on, chapter 5, page 129, and the book is 479 pages, so I'm about a quarter of the way through it. Again, enjoying this, and I imagine this will read pretty quick. Once I get done with Grant, this will go pretty quick. So those are my nonfiction books that I have planned for the month of August, right at the moment. And then my fiction books that I'm going to pick up. So if you have been following Sean D. Standfast and Mark over at Book Time with Elvis, if you've been following their channels, you know that they have put on a new reading event here for August. And it's August of Adventures, and it's adventure stories. And for all 4 weeks of August, they have a book plan for each of the weeks. And the book planned for week 3 is Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan of the Apes. Now, I heard everybody talk about this book over the last 2 years. I had never read this. I had never read anything by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Heard Steve Donahue talk about this a lot. And at one of my bookstores that I go to, the Jesse James Outlet Mall, Antique Mall, there's a book spot in there, a guy that sells books in his little space. And he had all the Edgar Rice Burroughs books. It was at least books 1 through 10, if not 1 through, I don't know how many there are, but there was a whole bunch of them there. I had never read it, and like my P.G. Wodehouse, I got one to make sure that I like it, and then I was going to go back and get the others if I didn't. Now, I haven't read it yet, but now I'm wishing, after the P.G. Wodehouse issue, I'm wishing I would have grabbed them all. They were only, I think, $1. Let me see. Oh, I thought it was written in here. Guess not. But I think they were just $1 each. And they had all the first 10, and they were with this original artwork on the cover, which is, I think, just phenomenal. And anyway, disappointed in myself for not doing that. Maybe someday I'll find them again. But I'm going to be reading that 3rd week of August along with Sean and Mark during August of Adventures. And that'll be a brand new, I don't know if it's a brand new genre, but definitely never read any of those type of books. And then after the first 4 weeks are done, if there's time, they are going to buddy read Robinson Crusoe at the end of the month. And I am so pumped about that. It is one of my all-time favorite books, but I have never read the full version, the original version of Robinson Crusoe. I've read adapted versions, if you want to call it that. And so, I grabbed this one, complete and unabridged version. I have another one upstairs that I'll dig out that's a much better book. But I've read the first couple chapters, but I never read the whole book. And so I hope that if there's time and they go ahead and do this book at the end of August, I hope to join in and read Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, one of the all-time ultimate adventure stories, one of my favorites. And so that is my plans for my book reading in August, tentatively. I'm sure there'll be other books involved as well, but those 4 are definitely scheduled. Probably won't get 1914 finished with Peg. That'll probably be, over a couple of months that we'll be working on that. I may get the Abraham Lincoln book done. I probably will get that one done. And I know I'll get the Tarzan book done. Robinson Crusoe, probably not going to get it completely finished. That'll carry on because I just don't read fast enough. But anyway, super excited about that. And I have some other books over on the desk that are stacked up. And as you can see, I've got a whole TBR of all kinds of books that are on the shelves. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you were curious of why the change of camera angle, first of all, this chair's a lot comfier than the wooden chair over there. But second, my daughter and I were playing Legos, and my wife were all playing Legos on the floor, and my library table happened to get moved clear back against the bookshelf, and there's nowhere to sit. So I made do. Hope you don't mind. But the only other thing I wanted to mention on this Friday Reads, I know the video is getting kind of long, so I'll wrap this up. But the only other thing that I wanted to mention is video plans over the next week to 2 weeks. I went to Books Revisited again yesterday, picked up 4 more books I'd like to show you. And then at Dollar Tree, I picked up 2 books that I found. And so I'm going to do a book haul video. KD Books, if you guys noticed yesterday, I think it was yesterday, KD Books put out a new video. The new challenge, Season 3, has Steve read it? Speaking of Steve Donahue, has Steve read it? And he kicked off Season 3, KD Books did, and I was tagged in that video to put up another, for Season 3, another, has Steve read it? And the big question is, out of 8 books, so the idea is you make a video of 8 books that you think Steve may not have read. Now, Steve is very well read and has read a lot of stuff. So it's a challenge. And basically, Steve gives you a bean or a point, a bean, and you try to get as many beans as you can on books that he has not read. Now, I will tell you, don't be like me last year. I tried to be a smarty pants and throw in a couple extra books, and I got burned on it, and I lost some beans because of it. I would have had actually a decent score. I got to go back and look at my score. I think I had a decent score, but then it got subtracted from because I threw extra books in and he had read them. So stick to the 8 book count if you accept this challenge, and I invite everybody to do this. This is a really fun thing to do. I also hope to put up a new tag. I'm not sure which tag I'm going to do. I'm going to do a new tag on Tuesday. I've been trying to go back and get old tags taken care of. As you saw last video, it was the W tag. It's from the alphabet tags. I might pick another alphabet tag. I'm not sure. And then I also hope to do my book discussions on Gone with the Wind. I want to get those started. It's a 5-part book, and so I hope to get 5 videos up, 1 for each part. Got to get going on that, though. My time is limited, especially with school. And then the last thing I wanted to announce is Sean D. Standfast in his video series, Desert Island, where you get to pick 8 books, a CD, and an extra item to go with you on a deserted island. So in other words, you're there by yourself, nobody else, and you got to pick 8 books for that. And I got to do my session, my round of Desert Island, and mine will be viewing the first Sunday in September, which is September 7th. So look forward to seeing that over on Sean D. Standfast's channel. So anyway, BookTube, that is my life in a nutshell. Now I've got to wrap this up because my wife said she was going to fix some biscuits and gravy for breakfast, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I need to get this video wrapped up and get it uploaded for you. Again, I will get another video up on Sunday, so until Sunday, I'll see you then. Happy reading.